I'm Iby Knill. I was born in November 1923 in Košice, and when I was 3 years old, my parents moved to Bratislava, where my mother's family lived, and I spent my childhood there. My maternal grandfather was a Zionist, but didn't, to such an extent, was not Jewishly inclined that he used to go past the synagogue on a Saturday in a fiacre smoking a cigar just to annoy people. And in my father's family, never had kept any part of religion at all. So I didn't really know what it meant to be Jewish, because it was never part of my upbringing or education. Although my grandmother's, one of her sisters married somebody who was very religious, and who was a standing joke in the family, because it was always that he didn't do anything except pray all day, and they expect other people to keep him. But it was the sort of my grandmother was one of 18 children, so there was a lot of variety in the family. I really loved school because it was the place where I could get questions answered, and I was always full of questions. When I was 11, I went from the primary school to the German grammar school and was very happy there. I had lots of friends. At the end of the year 3, my mother came, year 9 here, my mother came to me and told me that I wouldn't go to the same school the following year. And that upset me rather, because I was happy there and I didn't know whether I'd done anything wrong or what the reason was that I shouldn't be able to continue going to the same school. And Mother explained that as we were Jewish, she anticipated that during the following year, Jewish students would be excluded from the German grammar school, and she wanted to avoid my having to go through that, and therefore she was transferring me to the grammar school where the teaching was in the Czech language. In a way, it was quite amusing, because I finished up in a grammar school with only 17 girls in it, so it had its advantages. The year after that, Munich happened, and Czechoslovakia was divided, and the part which is now the Czech Republic became the protectorate, the German protectorate, and Slovakia became an independent country under a Catholic priest by the name of Tisho, whose first idea was, or the first decision was, that boys and girls shouldn't be educated together. So I then had to move to a church grammar school, a girls' church grammar school. Since the boys' grammar school was the other side of the road, it wasn't such a very, very great thing. But at the same time, what also came in was that people who were Jewish or of Jewish descent had to wear a yellow star. Now, I personally found that I got very angry about it, because I couldn't see why I should be any different to anybody else, because none of my friends were wearing yellow stars, and I thought I would put them into an awkward situation if I stayed in friendship or relationships with them. We were also told that on public transport we weren't allowed to sit down. In shops we were the last ones to be served. And I just decided that I wasn't going to use public transport under those circumstances. I would rather walk to school and use a scarf to cover my yellow star. The nuns at the schools were not very much in favor of this agreement, and they said that the moment we came into the school, we had to take our outer clothes off, because they wouldn't have it that students should wear yellow stars. They didn't consider it was an appropriate thing at all. The next thing that happened was that the Germans actually occupied Slovakia, and they wanted our apartments for the Germans, so we had to move out of our apartments, and we were allocated a tiny little flat on the outskirts of the town. And at the same time, Tisho decided that Jewish students shouldn't be educated beyond the age of 16. They shouldn't have intellectual pretensions, and they should instead of that learn a practical skill. Now, since the teacher in school had said that I couldn't draw, it was perhaps inevitable that I took a course in graphic design. Now, the funny thing is about it that I actually became quite a successful designer in England, which just shows that teachers aren't always right. Or maybe their criteria are different to those that are required in the commercial world. So, having finished a course in graphic design, I didn't quite know what to do. And so I seemed to spend most of my time queuing up in shops to get food, because the rule was that people with yellow stars should be the last ones to be served in shops. So quite often, by the time it became your turn, there was hardly anything in the food shops to buy. Also, our business had been what they called Aryanized, that the state took it over and put a non-Jewish person in charge, although my parents had still to continue to work there. We were now cramped in this tiny little flat, my parents, my brother and I. My brother's bed was a board on top of the bath on which a mattress was put, and I had a put-you-up that was opened out in the kitchen, and I just could crawl in from the bottom into the bed because there was just that much room between the sinks and the cookers on one side and the cookers on the other side. My grandparents also had to move out of Bratislava, and they were in a little village outside Bratislava.